Don't touch her!
The voice came from the darkness. Bradley froze, his hand suspended inches from Norah Higgins' face. Behind him, 2 black SUVs had just rolled into the underground garage, and walking toward them was Gabriel Moretti, the billionaire nobody in Chicago dared to cross. Bradley didn't know who he was. He didn't know Gabriel owned the building, and he certainly didn't know the man he had just threatened had been quietly watching over Norah for 6 months. But there was one thing Gabriel knew. Bradley had made the worst mistake of his life.
Before we begin, type 555 in the comments and tell us where you're watching from. Welcome to World Story Studio, where every story brings love, hope, and unforgettable moments to life. Now, let's begin.
5 minutes earlier, Norah had been walking toward her car when Bradley stepped from behind a concrete pillar. "Give me the audit files." Norah stared at him. "You followed me here? I need those records." "No." Bradley grabbed her arm. Pain shot through her shoulder. "You don't understand," he hissed. "I owe people money." "That isn't my problem." "It becomes your problem if they come after you." Norah's stomach tightened. "How much?" $200,000. She stared at him in disbelief. "You're gambling again?" Bradley laughed bitterly. "You always thought you were better than me." "I left you because you wouldn't respect my boundaries." His expression hardened. "You humiliated me." "No, Bradley. I escaped you." That sentence pushed him over the edge. He slammed her against the concrete pillar. Norah cried out, "Give me the files, and this ends tonight." "They're confidential." "I don't care." His fingers tightened around her arm. "I know exactly what you have access to." Norah's blood ran cold. He hadn't come for revenge. He had come for her professional access. She tried to reach for her phone. Bradley knocked it from her hand. "Stop!" He raised his hand. Then the garage filled with headlights. A black armored SUV roared into view. Bradley turned. The driver's door opened. A massive man stepped out. Then another. Finally, the rear door opened. Gabriel Moretti emerged. He wore a charcoal suit and an expression so calm it frightened Norah more than shouting ever could. He looked at Bradley, then at Norah's bruised arm. "Are you hurt?" Norah struggled to breathe. I think so." Gabriel's jaw tightened. Bradley stepped forward. "This is none of your business." Gabriel kept walking. "You're standing in my building." Bradley stopped. "What?" "I own Kensington Tower." The color drained from Bradley's face. Gabriel stopped directly in front of him. "And you are violating a restraining order while assaulting a woman on private property." Bradley glanced toward the elevators. "You think I'm scared of you?" "No." Gabriel's voice was, "I think you're beginning to understand who you should have been afraid of." He turned slightly. "Dante." A huge man stepped forward. "Sir?" "Take his phone." Bradley panicked. "Wait!" Gabriel's eyes never left Norah. "Find out who sent him." Norah's heart stopped. "Who sent him?" Gabriel finally looked at her. "Yes." He paused. "Because Bradley Jenkins couldn't possibly know about those audit records by himself." Norah stared at him. "What are you saying?" Gabriel walked toward her and gently removed his jacket. He placed it around her shoulders. "I'm saying someone wanted you frightened." His eyes darkened. "And Bradley was only the messenger." Norah felt the world tilt beneath her. "Who?" Gabriel looked toward the dark end of the garage. "That's what we're going to find out." He extended his hand. Norah hesitated. Then she took it. Neither of them noticed the tiny red light blinking from a security camera above the garage. Someone else was watching, and whoever was behind the attack had just seen Gabriel Moretti take Norah away. The tiny red light above the garage continued blinking long after Gabriel's SUV disappeared into the Chicago night. Someone had watched everything, and that person wasn't finished with Norah. Inside the armored SUV, Norah sat silently, Gabriel's jacket wrapped around her trembling shoulders. "Where are we going?" she finally asked. "Somewhere safe." "Your house?" Gabriel nodded. Norah stared through the tinted window. "Why are you helping me?" Gabriel was silent for several seconds. "Because 6 months ago, I saw you in the lobby." Norah frowned. "You remember me?" "I remember you every time you walk into my building." Her cheeks warmed. "Why?" "Because you were always working late, always carrying too much, always apologizing when you hadn't done anything wrong." Norah looked down. "That sounds like me." Gabriel studied her. "Bradley trained you to doubt yourself." The words hit harder than she expected. "He used to tell me I was lucky anyone wanted me." Gabriel's expression hardened. "He was wrong." Norah looked up. "He said I was too heavy, too ordinary, that men like him didn't choose women like me." Gabriel leaned closer. "I don't see an ordinary woman." His voice softened. "I see someone intelligent enough to audit million-dollar companies and strong enough to survive a man who tried to destroy her confidence." Norah swallowed. Then her phone rang. She hadn't even realized Dante had recovered it. Gabriel answered. "What did you find?" Dante's voice came through the speaker. "Bradley's phone had an encrypted message. We traced the number." Gabriel's expression changed. "Who?" "Someone using the name Rossetti." Norah went pale. "Rossetti?" Gabriel looked at her. "You know that name?" "No." "But Bradley does." Gabriel nodded. "Then we have our answer." He ended the call. Norah's hands trembled. "What happens now?" Gabriel looked directly at her. "Now you tell me everything Bradley ever asked about your work." She thought carefully. "Shipping manifests, client schedules, internal audit reports?" Gabriel's jaw tightened. "Exactly." Suddenly, Norah understood. "This isn't about gambling." "No." "It's about the company." "Yes." She stared at him. "Bradley was trying to steal information." Information that could expose criminal shipments moving through Chicago. Norah's stomach dropped. "So if I gave him those files, you could have become part of a federal investigation." Silence filled the SUV. Norah closed her eyes. For months, Bradley had made her believe she was the problem. Now she realized he had been willing to sacrifice her entire future. The SUV entered a private gated property. Norah looked outside. A massive historic mansion stood behind iron gates and security personnel. "You live here?" Gabriel nodded. "This is my home." Inside the mansion was warm and silent. Gabriel led her into a private study. A fire burned beneath a stone fireplace. Norah sat on the sofa. Gabriel poured her water. Then Dante entered. "Boss?" Gabriel looked up. "Tell me." Dante placed a photograph on the table. Norah stared at it. It showed Bradley meeting a stranger outside a restaurant. But the stranger wasn't what frightened her. It was the second photograph. A picture of Norah walking into Kensington Tower, taken 3 days earlier. Her blood turned cold. "They've been watching me." Gabriel's voice became dangerously quiet. Yes. Norah looked at him.
How long?
Dante answered. Almost 3 weeks. Gabriel stood. Then this is no longer just about Bradley. Norah's fear returned.
Who are they?
Gabriel looked toward the window. People who believed you were unprotected. He turned back. They were wrong. Then his phone rang. Gabriel answered. His face went completely still. What happened? A pause. Then his eyes met Norah's. Bradley disappeared. Norah's heart stopped.
Disappeared?
Gabriel lowered the phone. He escaped. And somewhere across Chicago, Bradley Jenkins was already heading toward the people who had hired him. But he wasn't going alone. He had Norah's address. And this time, they weren't coming for her audit files. They were coming for Norah herself. Do you want to leave? Gabriel asked quietly. Norah looked at him. What? You can walk out that door right now. I'll have security escort you anywhere you want. She stared at the man who had protected her without demanding anything in return. No. Gabriel's eyes narrowed. No? I don't want to run anymore. Before Gabriel could answer, Dante entered the study. We found Bradley. Gabriel stood. Where? An abandoned warehouse near the river. 2 men are with him. Norah's heart dropped. Are they coming here? Dante shook his head. They're waiting. Gabriel understood immediately. They want me to come. Norah looked at him. It's a trap. I know. Then don't go. Gabriel walked toward her. I won't. Norah blinked. What? I've spent years walking into traps because I believed power meant never showing fear. He paused. Tonight, I learned something different. He reached for her hand. Protecting you doesn't mean making every decision for you. Norah squeezed his fingers. Then let me help. An hour later, Norah sat safely inside a secured office overlooking the river while Gabriel and his team confronted Bradley's associates. She wasn't carrying a weapon. She wasn't fighting anyone. She was doing what she did best. Thinking. On the table before her were copies of the audit records Bradley had tried to steal. Norah noticed something strange. A shipping company appeared repeatedly in the documents. Then another. Then another. Different names, different owners. The same unusual shipping pattern. Her eyes widened. They're connected. She called Dante. Tell Gabriel to look at the manifests from November 3rd. Minutes later, Gabriel appeared. What did you find? Norah pointed at the records. 3 companies are moving shipments through the same warehouse. They aren't separate businesses. Gabriel studied the documents. It's a network. And Bradley knew enough to make me useful. Gabriel looked at her with unmistakable admiration. You just found the connection they were trying to hide. Norah smiled faintly. For once, I'm glad I'm an accountant. Gabriel almost smiled. Then his phone rang. Dante answered. It's over. Gabriel looked at Norah. Bradley? Alive, arrested, and the men with him are cooperating. Norah. The nightmare was finally ending, not because Gabriel had destroyed everyone who frightened her, but because the truth had finally become stronger than their threats. Later that morning, Norah stood outside the mansion. The Chicago skyline was turning gold beneath the sunrise. Gabriel approached her. You can go home now. Norah looked at him. I know. He waited. She smiled. But I don't think I want to go home alone. Gabriel's expression softened. Norah, I won't ever ask you to belong to me. She stepped closer. I know. You don't owe me anything. I know that too. She reached for his hand. That's why I'm staying. Gabriel looked at her for a long moment. Then he kissed her forehead. No grand promises, no possessive declarations. Just a quiet moment between two people who had survived a very dark night. Months later, Norah returned to Kensington Tower, but this time, she didn't lower her eyes in the lobby. She walked through the doors confidently, carrying her briefcase beneath one arm. The woman who had once apologized for taking up space had finally stopped apologizing. Gabriel watched from across the lobby. Norah caught his eye. She smiled and kept walking. Because the greatest victory wasn't being chosen by a powerful man. It was choosing herself first. Gabriel simply happened to be the man who respected that choice. And perhaps that's why their story endured. Not because he rescued her, not because she needed him, but because, after someone spent months convincing her that she was difficult to love, she finally discovered the truth. The right person doesn't make you smaller so they can feel bigger. They make room for you to become more fully yourself. If stories like Norah's remind you that courage can begin quietly, you're welcome here. This channel is a community for stories about resilience, second chances, unexpected love, and people who discover their worth after believing they'd lost it. If that message means something to you, subscribe and stay with us for the next story. And one question before you go. Do you think Norah was truly saved by Gabriel? Or did he simply give her the courage to finally save herself?